Hello? Yeah, okay. So my volume was down. Let me just check. All right, so volume's working better, I hope. Uh, yeah. So guys, again, intro to so in this live sessions we'll be basically be doing intro to Elastic Stack. My name is Ram from Great Learning, and let me give you a brief idea about what Elastic Stack is. But before that, guys, just give me a second. There's a lot of background noise. Let me try to reduce that so that we have a really nice and smooth session. Till then, you guys can go ahead and check out something Great Learning Academy. You can head over to greatlearning.in/academy. All right. Yeah. So I'm back, and hopefully we'll have less of a disturbance in the background. All right, guys. So let me start off by getting a feedback from you guys. I see that and voice wasn't coming. That's why we do these regular feedbacks. So I don't keep on rambling on without without having my mic off on. Okay. All right. So guys, again, so here at Great Learning, we come up with something called Great Learning Academy, or short GLA. So go to Google, type in Great Learning Academy, and the first link that comes up, right? Just click on it. And when that, it takes you to another website, right? You can see that, you have the statement over here, learn the most in-demand skills for free. And that for free has no catch over here. You have 80 plus free courses that are completely free. You have a lot of different domains, not just data science. You have data science, machine learning, artificial intelligence, IT and software, and cloud computing, a lot of different courses, and they're around 3 to 6 hours long. And once you enroll for them, you'll see a lot of different videos, and you will have a quiz that you have to complete at the end of it. And once you complete the quiz, you will get a certification, and that certification will greatly help you. You just put it on your resume that you've done this, and a lot of employers will see that you have some sort of credibility. So this is about our Great Learning Academy. Now let's come back. So Elastic Stack. So guys, Elastic Stack is a monitoring tool, and it is used in the software development process. Okay. So we'll be learning about this in basic in today's live session. All right. So I see that Madhuri says that, yeah, my voice is coming. Okay. So guys, let's keep this chat interactive. This is going to be a little difficult tool. So if you don't understand anything, please feel free to ask in the chat, because I would really love to answer your questions, and as much as I can, and get you guys acquainted with this really cool tool. Now Elastic Stack, like, what is this even weird name? So the thing is, it did not even used to be called Elastic Stack. It used to be called ELK Stack, and there is a reason behind that, and we will get into why it was called ELK Stack. Now ELK is like, sounds like elk, right? That's like a reindeer or some kind of animal. So it's really interesting. If you ever type in ELK in Google, you'll never find the tool. You'll always find the animal first. So if I do a ELK over here, you guys can see in images that we have the elk animal over here. Yeah. So but if we come back to all, you guys can see the Elastic Stack, ELK Stack is the same thing. So we'll be learning about this. So let me show you guys. First, we'll start off by discussing what is continuous monitoring. So ELK or Elastic Stack comes under something called continuous monitoring in your software development process. Now, continuous monitoring, with the basic terms itself, you can identify that it is continuously monitoring something. And in software development process, you monitor a lot. And when you're continuously monitoring, you're trying to say that you're monitoring each and every aspect of your software or your application or your system every minute of the day, every second of the day. Now, you do this because you want to have an idea about what is going on with that thing, right? Why is something working the way it is. Like if you've deployed an application, like let's take a very popular example of Facebook, right? Facebook is such a big application, and the company itself needs to understand how the customers are using the application, how are they finding out, the interaction with the application, how well is the application doing in the technical sense also. Now, technical sense also needs to be understood, because technicality here is important, where you need to improve something. So let's say that the Facebook app isn't performing as well as the developers thought it would, because it's using way too many resources, and a lot of people don't want to give so many resources from their phone or from their system. So they try to improve upon that system. So how do they know that it was using way too many resources? They get feedback from the clients, and they also monitor their own applications. So that way they get some kind of insight, right? This insight gives them a lot of leverage when it comes to deploying the application next time, because they have a lot of feedback. So that is why continuous monitoring is very important. It allows you to gain an insight into what you've developed and what you've put out there for people to use. And the sense we'll be talking about is more in technicality sense, where we'll talk about the system's performance, the metrics, the logs that it produces. There is other kinds of monitoring also. The one that you guys might be acquainted with is the business process monitoring, where you monitor how a business process is working, right? How one part of the business attaches to the other part, and what kind of result is there, etc., etc. So continuous monitoring is an important part of software development. It is something we take up as a measure to maintain the health of a software and to improve the quality of the software in the next cycle. This is based on the feedback that we get from the insights gained from a monitoring. So we have some activity in the chat. Yeah, so Om's asking, Great Learning has any app? Yeah, we do have an app. We have a really nice looking app, I might say. You guys can go ahead and download that, and all of those academic courses that I was talking about, those free courses, you can just watch it on your phone also if you want. It's a lot of hassle to go on the laptop. So if you have a phone, just open up your phone, go to your Play Store and type in Great Learning. You'll see the first app that you see, that's like Great Learning's app. You can download it and you can start working with it. And we have Kajal and Mahanti coming in. I hope I pronounced that right. They're saying hi. Yeah, hi. I hope you guys enjoy this session. So this session is going to be about ELK Stack. So Kajal is asking, sir, don't you teach in Hindi? Yeah, I do teach in Hindi, but I do teach in English also. So right now this session is going to be in English, but in future, if you subscribe, you'll get notified of when we do this session in Hindi, because not everyone knows Hindi. So I want to reach to as many people as I can. But we will have a Hindi session for this also. Don't worry about that. All right. So continuous monitoring, right? So again, this is a measure we take up to maintain a software's quality and health. Now a lot of companies do this. You have companies like Spotify, Windows, Adobe, Amazon, Netflix, Google, SAG, Bose, IBM, and Adidas. These are very few to list over here. If I had to list all the companies that monitor, I would have to list every company that monitors, or every company that exists, because almost every company in the world monitors their application or software or the system that they're using. Even us, even Great Learning has the application that I was just talking about. Even we monitor how the application is doing, and even we make sure that it remains healthy and it's always up and run. So that's why you guys can see that monitoring is very important. Even small companies or startups to bigger MNCs, multinational corporations like TCS or Wipro, or even those large conglomerates like Alphabet or Microsoft or Amazon, everyone monitors. And the scale of monitoring, the only thing that changes is the scale of monitoring. How much are you monitoring? Companies like Amazon, Microsoft, and Google, right? These are the big companies. So they have to monitor on a very large scale. And they monitor many different things also, not just the technical things. If I went into the business part of it, they do a lot of invasive monitoring also. Like right now, I'm talking about this. You guys are listening to me. So everything is being recorded in, YouTube. Like the algorithms are studying this. they're studying what kind of videos are people watching more, what are they enjoying more, so they show them those kind of videos again. So if you enjoy my videos, you will be recommended my videos in future or my live sessions in future. So you guys can see how this kind of monitoring helps them to make better business decisions, not just business decisions there, even the technicalities. If you look at it, like I told you guys about Facebook, right? They look at how many resources it's using, they don't understand why it's using, so they look it up, and when they find the issue, they try to resolve it. That way they're trying to make everything better, improving it, right? Okay, so now let's move on. Let's talk about how these companies, monitor. So they basically collect a lot of different types of data. They collect system performance. System performance is like, your Windows Task Manager. It's an example, like how much memory uses there is, how much CPU uses there is. All those kind of different things come under your system performance. And then you have, again, memory uses that I've just talked about. Then you have different kinds of logs. So what are logs over here? So guys, every application or software or system. One second, guys. Yeah, sorry for that disturbance. So logs is something that is produced by everything. You have your software, you have your systems, you have your applications. Everything produces logs. What are logs over here? Logs are basically files that detail what happened. They are basically like descriptions. So if I had to give you guys an example, let's say that you're working on some C++ code. So when you're running that code, what is happening during the running of that code? So that information about what happens during the running of code will be shown as logs, right? These logs basically detail what has happened. If a process is running, what happens during the running process, what is being created. Like if you're creating something, that creation process will produce logs that this process has been created, this process is working, this process has stopped, this process is accessing something that it should not have access to, or it's accessing something it should have access to. So those are logs. So I see in the chat, just one says, is it to analyze? Yes, you're right. You do use logs to analyze. You use logs to understand what is going on with your system, because that's how you understand what is going on with the system. See, so I'll tell you guys what the difference between what metrics and logs is when you go a little bit later. Then you guys will get a better understanding also. So these are the different kinds of sources that companies get the data from: servers, systems, applications, software, and they collect CPU metrics, software. Memory usage, the different logs, and the API requests, and the networking data, and all those kind of things are collected. And what they do is they create visualizations out of those things that they've collected. So these visualizations, right, they're very beautiful visualizations, and they have to be very beautiful visualizations, because we humans, we get really attracted to good looking things. Now, if we looked at nature, we really like nature, so we like to look at it even more. So that way, when we create beautiful visualizations, it becomes easier for people to find patterns in it, because they're more interested in looking at patterns. So what would you be more interested in looking at? Would you be looking at a pie chart which gives you precise and concise details of how much percentage of a particular thing is there, or would you like to look at the same data but in Excel sheet in numbers? Now some people might prefer the numbers, but they're very outliers. They don't represent all of us. Most of us really like visualizations. Even this presentation you guys are looking at, it's much more better to look at this kind of presentation than just raw data, right? So that's why visualizations are important. Once you take this kind of data, these companies, right, they take this kind of data, they visualize them into different kinds of charts and maps and everything, and they try to extract information out of it. How do they do that? They understand the data by looking at these visualizations, and they try to come up with insights. So let's say this gauge that is over here, it shows how much memory is being used by a particular server or a node, and that way you understand that how much it is using. Now if you change something in the server or the system, you can see that the resources being used go down. So that way you understand it, right? So that's how you gain insights. And when these companies or even you gain these insights, you can make decisions based on them. And when you make decisions based on them, your product quality increases. It becomes as shiny as a ruby. It becomes very excellent. So your customers really like what you're making, and if they really like what they're making, they buy more, and you get more people coming and buying more. So this way your company's revenue increases, and this way you're also able to do one more thing called scaling. So scaling, right? Scaling, if I had to describe to you guys, scaling is about expanding your operations. If a company provides some set of services for some set of customers, they have designed it so that they're giving it only for 100 customers. Let's say, for example. So when they start seeing that they are growing a lot, where they're having 200 customers, they're having 300 customers, 400 customers, they see that their systems aren't designed to take so many customers in. So they have to scale their operations, in which they have to expand the amount of services they have so that they can accommodate all of the users coming in. So that is scaling. And when you monitor things, you get a better understanding of everything, especially the IT environment. So in a company, you have an IT environment in which you have your software development, you have your systems that are part of the company and everything. So once you understand your IT environment and how everything works, and that you can only do through monitoring, you can scale it better. So that way scaling is also a great option or an advantage or benefit that comes with monitoring. So this is why companies do it, and this is why we should also do it. So that was in brief. Now let's move on to let's talk about different types of monitoring. So when we talk about different types of monitoring, we have system performance, process monitoring, integration, application performance, business monitoring, all these different kinds of monitoring we have, right? So I won't go into a detail about this because you guys already know system performance is like CPU and memory usage for the whole system. Process monitoring is the same but for processes. Integration is where you check how your different parts of your software are attached together and how they're interacting together. Are they doing fine or are they crashing? What is the issue? And application performance is checking how your software is working, the heartbeat of it, and if it's doing well or not. And then business monitoring, I've already told you guys, it's the business side, how things work, your customers' things, customers' data, your own data. You find patterns and trends. That is like business analytics, and it comes into business intelligence. So it's a totally separate thing. So the one we'll be talking about is the technical one. So all the rest of 5 of these things. So for that, you have a lot of different tools. You have your Elastic Stack that I just told you guys about. You have Prometheus, you have Grafana, you have Nagios, you have Splunk, and you have Amazon CloudWatch. Now these are just the tools that I know. There are even more tools out there. Actually, monitoring tools are like in a lot of abundance. You have monitoring tools for every specific requirement. If you just type in Google that you want to collect only API data, then you will find a monitoring tool that basically does only that. So people love monitoring tools. So guys, the one we will be talking about is Elastic Stack. All right. Now the thing with Elastic Stack is it's majorly a logging tool, versus you have other tools like Prometheus and Grafana, which are metric tools that collect only metrics. Now what is the difference over here? So the thing is, logging, right? It basically tells you what has gone wrong. Metrics, it tells you when something has gone wrong. So for example, let's say a server something goes wrong. How do you identify that something went wrong? You check the metrics, like is the CPU usage to the max or is the CPU usage to 0? That alerts you to the idea that something has gone wrong. You don't know what's gone wrong, but you know something has gone wrong. So that's you get to know that through metrics. Now to identify what has gone wrong, you check the logs, right? So that's the difference. Metrics identifies doesn't identify the problem. It identifies that there is a problem, and logging identifies the exact problem. So people are asking, what is Nginx? Nginx is an open source, it's a monitoring tool. All these tools that I was talking about, they're all monitoring tools that they have their own, life cycles and data flows in which they collect data. So that's what they are. All right. All these monitoring tools. Talking about monitoring over here. All right. So guys, we'll be talking about Elastic Stack or ELK Stack. So why is it called stack thing over here? The thing is, it's called stack because it's a set of tools. Whenever you think of stack in terms of technology, it's always going to be a set of technologies together. So it's like a stack of technologies, right? And even if we go to the website for ELK, you guys can see all these technologies are in a stack. They try to show that. You have Kibana, you have Elasticsearch, you have Beats and Logstash. These are the four main tools that form the stack, right? So Elastic Stack is basically a set of open source tools that allow you to monitor data. Now, what are these open source tools? Where do they come from? And how do we use them? And how they're beneficial? So that's what we'll be going through right now. So ELK Stack. ELK Stack is a set of open source tools that allow us to monitor, collect, process, and visualize data. This data can be of different types, formats, and from almost any source. It was developed by the company Elastic Company, and it was done iteratively. So what they did was, they first came up with Elasticsearch, and then they came up with all the rest of them. So I'll talk about them just in a second. So basically, the primary purpose of ELK Stack is for log management. You can use it for metric management also, but a lot of people mainly use it for log management. So what happens is when your logs are generated, right, you use Elastic Stack to convert those logs from just those menial data into beautiful visualizations from which you can understand what's going on. So that's what ELK helps us to do. This is in basic. It just takes in logs and it gives us visualizations. Now, how it does it? Now we'll study that. So ELK features. So it has system and application performance also, not just logging, but it is logging also, and it has a security layer around it where only authorized people can access it, and you can even schedule alerting or configure alerting so that you get alerted to when specific problems occur. Then scalability, like I told you guys earlier, a big benefit of having monitoring is scalability, and dashboards and visualizations. So you can make very beautiful looking visualizations and dashboards in ELK. All right, so those are the features. Now let's talk about the stack itself. So there are a lot of tools involved in stack, and now I'll come to why it's called ELK Stack as well as Elastic Stack. So the thing is that ELK Stack, right? The name itself tells you it's ELK. So stack. So when the company that makes these tools, it started coming up with these tools. It first came up with a tool called Elasticsearch. That was a tool that was a database. They came up with that first. Then they came up with a tool called logstash. Now logstash was a collection tool. It helped them collect data. And then they came up with Kibana, which is a visualization tool that basically only visualizes data. So they came up with Elasticsearch, logstash, Kibana. In short, ELK. Now, they had these three tools, so they decided to name their stack ELK. But the thing is that they started coming up with even more tools. So it felt very odd having even more letters stacked onto this thing, ELK, right? You can't keep on going ELK, B, X, Y, Z, right? So what they decided to do was, shift it to Elastic Stack. So it made more sense. It's all the tools that are made by Elastic. So let's look at the main tools that are used in Elastic. All right, so we have questions. Oh, no. BlueStack, I think what you're trying to say is BlueStack, the thing that allows us to emulate Android. No, that's a little different thing. Elastic Stack is a bit different. All right. So ELK Stack, we have tools like Logstash, we have Filebeat. Now Logstash is a collection agent. It allows you to collect data. Any source you have, it allows you to collect data from there. Now Filebeat is a very similar tool. The difference here is that Filebeat is very lightweight. It is very lightweight compared to Logstash. Now Elastic actually came up with Beat tools in response to the feedback. The logstash was very resource heavy, resource intensive. So that's why they came up with Beat tools, and Filebeat is one of those Beat tools. So logstash not only collects data, it also filters data, like pre-processing. When raw data comes in, right, you want to make sure that it is neat and tidy when you want to visualize it. So it filters the data, it pre-processes it. And the Beat tools, right? So over here I mentioned Filebeat. This is used to collect logs, but you have other kind of beats also. You have metric beats, which is another tool that you can replace instead of this. Just type metric beat. So beats are basically a set of lightweight data collectors. You have a lot of Beat tools. So if I come back over here, you guys can see a beats over here, right? So this is one of the parts. and Filebeat is one of the beat tools. And you have other tools like Metricbeat, which is used for collecting metrics, Networkbeat, which is used to collect packet data, like network packet data. You have WinLogBeat, that is used to collect Windows log data. Then you have logbeat, and then you have auditbeat, which is used to collect audit data. Then you have heartbeat, which basically checks if a certain application is up and running or not. Okay, so all these are data collectors. Now where does this all of this data get stored? It all gets stored in Elasticsearch. Now Elasticsearch is a database where it takes in data, it indexes that data, and it stores that data within local storage. It allows you to basically make the data searchable and manageable. Then comes Kibana. Now Kibana is the one that does all the visualization. It creates the visuals, it creates the dashboards, and it allows you to discover the data. That is basically explore whatever data you have stored. So you'll basically reference whatever data you want from Elasticsearch, and you will represent or visualize that within Kibana. Okay, so that is your visualization tool. It also is your main GUI access to these tools, also like graphical user interface. It also gives us that. And then you have the infrastructure. So all of these tools have to be set up somewhere. Now you can set it up in your local infrastructure, or what you can do is, you can use Elastic Cloud. So like all those cloud services, right, like Amazon or AWS, sorry, not Amazon, AWS, Amazon, Azure, or GCP, they provide like cloud services, right, the platforms, or they provide you infrastructure, right? So that way, even Elastic has this own thing where, they even though these tools are open source, they want to make money somehow. So they make money through one of this ventures where they allow you to basically use their cloud services, where you don't have to set up any of these tools. All of them will be set up by Elastic themselves, and they'll just give you access to it. So you just pay them, they give you access to it, and it's very quick and easy. So that's an option. Then you have XPack tools. Now XPack tools are extra tools. You don't necessarily need them, but a lot of people do use them for specific purposes. Like, for security, you have a tool for that. You have a reporting tool. You have an alerting special tool. And even if you want to apply machine learning algorithms, you have tools for that. And more tools are there. So that's why I've included it in the XPack. Alright, so this is the ELK stack. All the set of tools that you would be using with that are within ELK or Elastic. Okay, so guys, let's study the architecture. So architecture is basically me telling you guys how data flows within these tools. So first we have the server or the data source. Now this is the one that is going to be producing all of the data. So this data is produced and it is collected by your beat or any beat tool. So let's say it's collecting log data. So log data is going to be collected by Filebeat. Now Filebeat will directly send it to Elasticsearch for storage. Now it can do that, but it can do another thing. It can send the data through the buffer to logstash. Now why sending it to logstash? Logstash is, we've already understood that it's a very high intensive tool and it's not good for that collection that much. But the thing is that it can also do filtering and processing. So we collect the data with Filebeat, but we filter and process it with logstash. That's why it's still in the gang, and they haven't kicked it out of the gang yet. So that's the purpose of logstash over here, where logstash processes the data, and once it processes the data, it stores it in Elasticsearch. Now in the questions, we have a question. We have a lot more questions. So Vinod asks, Elasticsearch is used for searching and filtering. How can we use this for logging? So Elasticsearch is basically for indexing and storing. Now for searching, you will be using Kibana. Searching in this matter means that once you store the data, you want to search that data. So you will be doing that with Kibana. So Kibana basically gives you analysis and visualizations. To achieve that, you search the data, you create visualizations for that data, and you create dashboards for that data. So how can we use it for logging? So basically in the data flow I'm giving you, the server logs are being collected by Filebeat. Now once it collects it, it sends it for pre-processing, where it processes the logs that are coming in and selects only those that we want to see, right? And once it collects those, it will go ahead and store it in Elasticsearch. Once it's stored and indexed in Elasticsearch, we can use Kibana to basically look it up, like search through that data. Or if you want to create visualizations on that data, we can create visualizations. So that's what happens. Elasticsearch is only a DB. All of these together basically allow us to do, that is, visualizations or log. Now we have another question. Siddharth is asking, what is AWS? So AWS is Amazon Web Services. It basically is a cloud provider that allows you to launch certain services. So these certain services, right? These certain services can be used for a lot of different things. Now, I don't want to go into detail about this because that is not what this session is for. So Siddharth, if you want to understand what AWS is, we have a very long tutorial that will help you understand exactly that. Okay, but in short, it's something that provides us services, right? These services can be your storage services where you can store data, or if you want to launch a virtual machine, it can allow you to do that also. All right. Now, once you've set up this architecture, you will have a layer of security, and you can configure alerts within it. So layer of security means only those people who need to have access will have access. And configuring alerts is basically when you see that specific amounts of logs are not coming in, then you alert the user about why it's not coming in. Or if something has gone wrong with one of these components, if logstash, let's say, stop working for some reason, you should be able to receive an alert for that. So that is your alert configuring. So this is the elastic architecture or ELK architecture. Now we will move up to ELK setup and installation. Okay. So the theory aside, now we will do the practical stuff. That is setting it up and installing it. So let me just bring up something. We'll close this. All right, so I'm going to be using AWS over here, you guys. If you don't know what AWS is, again, we have a tutorial that basically specifies what this is and how you can use the services. But if you do know, that'll be really helpful. Once you log in into AWS Management Console, you can launch a virtual machine. So what we will be doing is we'll be installing ELK within Ubuntu. So if you have Ubuntu in your own system, Windows system, you can go ahead and use that. And if you don't, you can follow my steps. So I've gone to AWS, I've logged in, I've created my account, and I will go to the EC2 service. So select services and select EC2. So this allows you to launch virtual machines from within their servers that they have. So what we will do is we'll click on launch instance. Now once we launch instance, we have an option to select Ubuntu. So if you scroll down, you can see it's free to eligible. So I'll select Ubuntu over here. So Vinod is asking, why are we filtering and processing data on logstash as we can filter and search it on Kibana, and we can make sure server is not producing unnecessary data. So that's the thing. The thing, Vinod, is that sometimes the thing is you cannot store all of that data. You want to filter it out first because you only want to store a set amount of data. You can't store the whole thing. If your system is producing a lot of different logs, you don't want to store all of those logs. You only want to store those logs that you want to search or you want to visualize. Now you do say that, yeah, you're right. Even in Kibana you can do that. But in Kibana you're not actually filtering it. You're just looking for that set of data. So let's say that you've collected error logs and you filtered to have only specific set of error logs. Let's say you've had it for only one week set of error logs. You stored that, and in Kibana you start looking that data up. You in that way you can look up even day wise also, like Monday how many error logs are there, Tuesday how many, Wednesday how many. In that way you have the flexibility over there, but only in the confines of what you've defined earlier. Like you've defined to have only 1 week's data, so within that you can search for specific days. Now if you stored the whole year's data, your system will be overcrowded and it won't work very well, and that causes a lot of problems. That way we need to filter data. It's a lot about it's about storage also. Now you say we can make sure the server is not producing unnecessary data, but that's the thing, man. Server needs to produces data for everything. It's our job to basically collect only that data that we want to collect, right? It's a very good question, I really like that you've asked us. I hope this gave a better understanding to other people also. So we'll be launching, so coming back, so we'll be launching t2.micro over here. Let me just configure this. Okay, everything will leave default. We don't need to, mess with anything. So I'll select a security group. So basically what we're doing is we are choosing all traffic and any source. This isn't really safe, but it makes it convenient. You can review your details, then click on launch, choose the key pair. Now I have a key pair. Let me just choose my key pair and launch the instance. Now, for those who don't know how to launch this, I would recommend checking out another, typing in EC2 Great Learning. We have a video on that also, and it is part of the AWS tutorial if you want to check it out. but I can't explain the whole thing to you because this session is limited, and I want to tell you guys about ELK rather. All right, so we have set up our ELK. Let me just copy the IP address. Open my SSH client. All right, so we'll just wait for it to start. So guys, this is what we'll be doing. We'll be installing ELK, right? So let me just show you the steps. These are the steps to install ELK over here. Basically, first we'll update the instance. Second, we'll install Java. So Java is a dependency. You need Java over here. And then you need to update the instance again. We'll install Nginx. Now, the purpose of installing Nginx, I'll explain to you guys again later. Then what we will do is we will add the key over here. Now, this key is for the Elastic repository that we'll be adding to Ubuntu. Once we add the repository, we'll need the key, and then we'll update it again, and then we'll install all of these tools like Elasticsearch, Kibana, Logstash, Filebeat from within the repository. Okay. Okay, so we have a question. So Ravi asks, hi, what's the difference between ELK or ELK and Tableau? So the thing with Tableau is just a visualization tool. If you wanted more apt comparison, it would be Kibana and Tableau, but even then, it's not very it's not a very good example. The thing with Tableau is, right, Tableau is mostly used for business intelligent purposes, that checking out business data, where you create graphs and visualizations in that. But with ELK, you're doing it more technical side, where you're doing it for systems, software, and application, all of that kind of thing. And Tableau, right, so it takes in static data, right? You take in static data and you feed that into Tableau and you create visualizations out of that. Now, I'm not exactly sure about it, but I don't think you can take real-time data. With ELK, you can take in a real-time data. When I say real-time data, I mean like what is happening right now. So if my system is producing some kind of data right now, I can see that in my visualizations if I'm using ELK. All right, so let me come back. So this is up and running. Let me just launch this. Yes. Okay. So we have our Ubuntu up and running. Now I'm going to go ahead and show you guys these commands, like running these. We'll run these commands. First, we'll update our instance or our virtual machine. So it's updating. While this process is happening, you guys can go ahead and ask me questions. So we have updated the virtual machine. Now we will install Java. So this is the command to install Java. That is sudo apt-get install -y open jdk 8-jdk. All right, so while this is happening, let me check for previous questions. So Israrul is asking, sir, are you contribute certificate? So yeah, this is a live sessions. You won't get a certificate from this, but if you want a certificate, register for any course on GLA. All right. Now we've installed Java, let me update it again. And after we update it, we'll be installing Nginx. So I'm installing Nginx. Now, the reason we're installing Nginx because we're going to be using it as a reverse proxy for Kibana. So we won't be accessing Kibana directly. We'll be accessing Kibana through Nginx. So we can like give it a layer of security where we give a username and password. All right. So we've installed Nginx. Now my next step is to get the key. So if I do this properly, I should get an OK. I got an OK. We've added the key for the Elastic repository, and this is the Elastic repository. Let me go ahead and add it in my system. And I've added the repository. Now the next step is to update the list of repositories. So you guys can see Elastic is now a part of it once I update. Now we can go ahead and do the proper installation. So first we'll install Elasticsearch. Again, guys, it's our DB. Or you know what? I'll install them in the order of data collection. So first we have Filebeat. So Filebeat basically collects our data. So you guys can see it's installing Filebeat. So Siddharth is asking how much RAM in your computer. So my computer, I have 8 GB of RAM, but this one we're using the virtual machine that we've launched, right? This has only 1 GB RAM. Oh, you're right. Thank you for reminding. Oh, okay, I have to close this. Okay, one more thing with this is, guys, you need to launch an instance that is a little powerful. You can't launch a 1 GB one. We'll launch a 4 GB one. Thank you for reminding me so much. Okay, this is delayed the session a little bit, but it's all right. We make mistakes, we resolve them, we try to do better. So, okay, so I'll launch a 4 GB one because that way, otherwise, ELK won't run properly. Yeah, so it's a little heavy. It's on the little heavier side, so you need to have a good enough RAM to make use of it. Thank you for reminding me, Siddharth. You're a lifesaver. Okay, so we have Vinod coming back with a really interesting question again. So Vinod is asking, I'm using MongoDB for persisting data and Elasticsearch for indexing so that I can use full text search on that data. As of now, it is near real time, like 5 seconds. Can I reduce this time? All right. Using MongoDB for persisting data, indexing, so that I can use full text search on that data. I mean, I don't see how you can do this. From my perspective, I think 5 seconds is fine, but I think your requirement might allow you to, want you to reduce the time. I'll have to get into specifics, look at it, what's happening. As of now, I don't, I can't tell you exactly, but there may be a way. But, I have to look at the thing in detail to understand this. All right, so we'll just start this. Let me just shut this down. Actually, Vinod, give me some time. Let me think about it. We'll look at it again in the end of the session. Let me. Mm-hmm. Okay, let me just do this again. Yeah, Veer Singh is right if I assign my volume, but I've already terminated these, so there's no data over there anymore. I think I put in the wrong key, that's why it wasn't working. So let's just do this again. I'm just gonna run this as a shell script so I can do it fast. Okay. Siddharth saying very hard to install. Not really. You just have to follow these steps and you can install. Now the configuration part where you want to connect them all and all, that's a little difficult. That's why we have this live session. So don't worry, I'll explain the whole setting up process so you guys can learn how to practice and all. I mean, I don't think we'll have enough time for a real-time log collection, but I'll try my best. Let me just log in again. All right, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to create a file over here, install file, .sh file. Let me paste all the commands. So let me just install this. Yeah, so it will just go through the process and I'll just explain to you. So first again, we're updating, then we're installing Java, then we're installing Nginx, and then we're getting the key. We are getting the Elastic repository. Then we're updating, then we're getting Elasticsearch, Kibana, logstash, and Filebeat. So Filebeat again, because we're collecting logs. All right, so Anubhav is asking, can you elaborate on file beats or network beats? All right, so the thing with file beat and difference here, I'll just give you guys the difference between logstash and file beat. So with logstash, right, you have to make your configuration files. So in that configuration file, you define the pipeline where you mention the destination, the source, and you mention the filtering process, how you're going to filter it. So you mention the types of filter you're going to use and why, how you want it. Okay, so today we'll be using file beat mostly. Logstash I'm just going to ignore, but I'll just installing process I will explain it to you. We'll be using Filebeat. Filebeat is like a way more automated. So Filebeat is a part of Beat where you have a lot of Beat tools. You have Filebeat, you have Metric Beat, you have Audit Beat, Winlog Beat, Network Beat, and no, that's the extent of what I remember. So you have all these beat tools. They're very lightweight. They collect data very fast, and they allow you to store it in your Elasticsearch. Right. So Filebeat, it's very easy to automate the whole process where you just need to write the location of the logs that you want to collect, and you want to just tell it what system you want to collect it from. It has some predefined systems from which it can collect data. Okay. All right, so what we're going to do here is, guys, after we're done installing, we're going to configure Elasticsearch and Kibana to be open on certain ports so that they can be accessible. And after that, we're just going to configure our Nginx to do a reverse proxy from Kibana so we can access Kibana, right? And then I'll just take up some sample data set and I'll show you guys from that. And if we have enough time, I'll use the Filebeat to show you guys how to collect data from Nginx or your system. All right. Okay, so we have it done. So the process is finished. Now let me quickly. Yeah. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna head to etc elasticsearch elasticsearch.yaml. So you have to go to these configuration files that allow you to configure the details for these things. So first we're gonna configure Elasticsearch. So over here, you guys can see this is the configuration file. I'm just gonna uncomment the cluster name. I'm gonna come down. I'm gonna uncomment the node name. I'm gonna come down, and you guys can see this is where the data is being going to be stored. Path to the log files. Okay. Now come down. So there are 4 things to uncomment: the cluster name, the node name, then the network host. We're going to change the network host from this IP to localhost. All right, now we'll come down again. One more thing, that is the HTTP port at which our Elasticsearch is accessible. So it's accessible over here. Let me go ahead and save this. Okay. All right, so we have configured this. Now let me just start it up. So this is going to start up my Elasticsearch. All right, so while then I'll check on the questions. So beats will constantly look at logs and see for updates. Is my understanding correct? Yeah, you're right. Like once you identify the targets, right? So once you identify the targets, it will just keep on taking those data. So you can go ahead and configure the time intervals also. All right. So Elasticsearch is up and running. Now we'll do the same thing for Kibana also. So let me just quickly do sudo nano slash etc Kibana. So what we're doing is basically we configuring these two tools, and I'm just going to their .yaml files. These are the configuration files, and I'm uncommenting a few stuff. So in the previous one I uncommented 4 things. Over here we just have to comment 2 things. That is the server port and server host. So it needs to identify those things. Then we'll save it. So this is enough for it to work. Now let me just go ahead and start this up also. We'll check the status for Kibana. All right. There's one more thing you can do to check this thing, Elasticsearch, if it's working or not. You can do a curl at localhost, and we can head to port 9000. So if you do this, you'll get some JSON format. So if you get some JSON data, that means your Elasticsearch is working. All right. Tagline for search. Okay, so we've done the 2 things, guys. We have configured our Kibana as well as our Elasticsearch. Now the next thing we need to do right now is basically to configure our Nginx. So to configure our Nginx, what we need to do is we need to assign a username and password for an Nginx. So to do that, we need to install a password hasher. So let me quickly do that. Sudo apt install apache 2 utils. So that password hasher is inside this, and over here I'm going to basically start using it. One second, guys. All right, so yeah, over here. All right, now what we're going to do is we're basically going to give it the username. Let me put the username as Kibana. I'm going to give it the password. I'm going to give it a very easy password. All right, so added password. Now if we go ahead and check this location out, we should see our password and username. Okay, our password and username are now here. Now I will change the Nginx default file. One sec. Right. Default. Shift it to old. Right, let's give it permission. All right, done. Now we will just give me a second, guys. Oh, okay, it got cut for a second. Oh, no, sorry. Yeah, sorry, guys. I got cut for a second. Uh, it was a network issue I had to resolve. Okay, so now that we've done that, let me just open up it. Sudo nano etc nginx sites available. Then we're gonna go to the default file. All right, so let me just take in this configurations. We're gonna paste these configurations. No, cancel. All right, so we just have to put in the IP address over here. Okay, now that we've done that, so basically it should work. So that was just me doing a reverse proxy. So if I just do it, yeah. So this is what we're doing. So you guys can see we are using the username and password, and you guys can see the proxy pass that we're doing for Kibana. Kibana is available at 5601. Now that we've done that, what we will do is we will just enable or restart, or I haven't started it at all, my Nginx. All right. Once again, we'll directly use root access. Okay, let me just check its status. All right. So now what we'll do is, let me just take in the IP address over here, paste it, and go to default port. Okay, so it's showing Nginx, but it's not showing us the new default thing we gave it. So let me just restart Nginx. On restart, it should do that. All right, so on restart, you guys can see it's asking for a username. So my username was Kibana, and my password was admin. All right, so if I enter, you guys can see Elastic is loading up. Okay, so guys, this is the basic process of it all. So let me just show you the thing again. Yeah, so this is what you do. You download it all, then the configurations I told you, and in the default file for Nginx, you write this code. So after this live session is done, you can pause this video when it's uploaded as a video, and just check out this code. All right. Okay, so once you guys have done that, you can basically access your Elastic Stack, right? So over here it will show options to try sample data, explore on our own. So we don't have enough time to explore on our own. Let me do that in another live session. And today we'll just check out or try our sample data. So over here we have a lot of different sample data. So let me show you sample web blogs. So since that's most relevant. Adding, I have a lot of other types of logs also. Hey, we have a question in the comment. I am in class 10. I want to learn any programming language. Which is the best course for according to me? I have a lot of time, so I want to learn more. So Siddharth, I would recommend you start off with Python. Python is it's a pretty cool language. It's easy to learn, and you can get started. And it has many different use cases. You can even go to backend, or if you want data science, you can do all of it. So I would recommend starting with Python. Alright guys, so we've added the sample weblogs. Now let me show you about Kibana. So over here you guys can see a lot of different options. We have Kibana, and we have the discover option. You can go ahead and discover the data that is being added. Discover basically means exploring the data. So you guys can see all the available fields for that data, all the logs for that data over here. And these are basically Apache web logs. So you guys can notice how you're hitting, these are per specific requests from what browser and everything. Okay, so now what we will do is, over here I want to show you guys KQL. KQL is your basically Kibana query language. It's like any other query language, but it's a little more specific. If you want a specific ID, you can type in, you can refresh, you can change the time you want for 1 year, you want for last 7 days, and refresh. It will show you the data for like that. All right, so this is your exploring the data. Now if we come back, if you look at visualizations, within Kibana, you guys can see dashboard and visualize. Now, if you look at visualize, this is where you create your visualizations. So if you click on create visualization, you will have an option to choose the type of visualization you want and select the data source or the data you want to do it. You can see there's a lot of data visualizations here already. It's because we chose the sample web logs, so that's why it got some sample visualizations. Now, if you look at the dashboard, we have one dashboard that is a web traffic dashboard. If you look at it, so this is something what you guys will see. And right now, if you guys want, even you guys can hit this IP and put in the username admin and Kibana and access it for the amount of time we have right now. So you can see visitors by OS, Windows 8, OS X, Windows 7, iOS, Windows XP. So you can see log visitors by OS, sample log data, unique visitors. Now keep in mind, this is just already stored data. This is static data. This is not in real time. Now if we wanted to do it real time, we'll use Filebeat and collect data in real time, right? So you can see what kind of country you want to select. So if you select one country, you can see the unique visitors reduce, and it's an interactive dashboard. So it's dynamic. You can see a lot of different visualizations also over here, response code over times, annotations, and etc. etc. All right. Okay, guys. So this is basically our ELK tutorial in basic. Now, just let me show you one more thing over here. If we go to dashboards, you can create your own dashboards and click on create, or you can add new visualizations or add existing ones. So if you created visualizations from before itself, you can go ahead and add them like so. All right. And you can just save and you will create your own dashboards. You can even share your dashboard. You have an option for that also. So Anubhav asked another nice question. Anubhav, you deleted that question. All right, fine. I couldn't read it. We'll read Siddharth's question. What is the difference between Python learning and coding? So Python learn. I don't understand your question. Python learn and coding. Well, Python is a language. It's a programming language. It's a coding language. You use it to make things. All right. I hope that's clear. Okay, so Anubhav asks, if Beats is installed on the same cloud as logstash and Kibana, then how to transfer logs from multiple servers? So you will be basically installing your Filebeat on your servers or the locations where you want to collect the data from. So whatever multiple servers you have, you'll have Filebeat on them. That's why they need to be lightweight so that they don't affect the server's performance. And you have to basically basically give it the location. Like you have to configure in your Elasticsearch the specific location from where the Filebeats are collecting data, the IP addresses, right? And once you do that, your Elasticsearch will be configured to take the data from Filebeats that are on the multiple servers. So that way you'll be able to transfer logs from multiple servers. Now to go into detail again, I have to explain a lot of it. So I hope you guys, I hope you got the basic gist of it. You can do it. So just understand Filebeat, I have installed it on this system because we'll be collecting data for this system. But if you don't have it on this system, you want to collect it on some other system, you can do that. You just have to give it proper access. If you're using a virtual private cloud, right, then and there are multiple VMs on those or servers on those virtual private cloud that can talk to each other without any issues, then they can talk to each other, these Filebeat and Elasticsearch, so you can store data directly. Would be nice if you can show Filebeat or network on real-time data. Yeah, I know, Himanshu, I really know. So here's what, I actually have a surprise for you. If you want to see that, right, just go to YouTube and type in Great Learning Elastic Search. So when you type in Great Learning Elasticsearch, just type in ELK. Type in Great Learning ELK. So you guys will see that I already have a tutorial on this. You can check it out, but it's in Hindi, so you guys can wait for the English one, subscribe, and you can wait for the English one. But right now, as of now, there's a Hindi one. So if you want it in Hindi, you can watch it over here. All right. Okay, guys, thank you so much for watching. I really enjoyed the session. Now, we had a few ups and downs here where we couldn't, collect our logs and all. We didn't have enough time for that. But I still enjoy all the questions that, a lot of people were asking. Really made the difference. So, guys, I really enjoyed teaching you, and I hope you guys enjoyed learning. Thank you so much for watching. Wait for my next sessions. I am Ram, and I'll see you guys later.